Welcome to this edition of BSW Tech Dive. I am John Lynch, Director of Business Development here at BSWUSA.com, broadcast supply worldwide. My guest, Michael Catfish Dosch from Angry Audio, and our topic today is Stereo Toolbox. Michael, on the Stereo Toolbox, there's a lot going on with this box for FM processing. Let's start off with the easy stuff first of all.
Okay. Go ahead and ask me what you think might be easy, and I'll answer it for you.
Well, how about from a standpoint of setup? I mean, I know that some
Okay.
boxes people got to do an awful lot of little tweaking here and there and stuff like that. And in Stereo Toolbox, you've got a lot of that taken care of.
Well, I guess we should probably start with the idea of StereoToolBox. So many people are familiar with StereoTool software. It's probably one of the most popular software process. In fact, I think it is the most popular software audio processing for radio in the world. They've got thousands of customers that are happily using this software, and it's amazing software. And I've been friends with the founder of this company for a long time. And I asked him if it would be okay if we made a box for StereoTool, and of course that's what it's called, the StereoTool box. And so he, the founder of Timeo Software, has indeed made a special version of StereoTool that runs inside of this box. It is it's a purpose-built device. So it's already easier to configure than the software because it's in a 1RU device. You plug audio in the front end, you take composite out the back end, you got an audio processor, you select a preset, you're on your way. But there's quite a lot packed in here, and you're not wrong when you say it does an awful lot, because I think we might have gotten a little carried away.
Engineers carried away. When does that happen?
Yeah. It's a pretty interesting device, because I wanted to, and just so you know, at Angry Audio, we really focus on the more budget-friendly edge of the broadcasting marketplace. So, I'd rather build something that people can afford rather than something that people have to dream about and can never fit it into their budget. So that's always the target, is to make it an affordable product. So we kind of set out and said, well, for $39.99, that was the price we wanted to hit. How much processor could we build? And it turns out quite a lot. In fact, I would put this up against some of the boxes that cost $10, $12, $14, even $16,000, and it's going to hold its own against them. And you might think, well, that's just an audacious claim. Yeah, sure, of course, a $4,000 box is going to hang out with a $16,000 box. But it might surprise you to find out that $16,000 box has exactly the same clipping algorithm that we use in the Stereo Toolbox. You see, a lot of people don't know that Timeo, the software company behind StereoTool, also is the inventor of Micro MPX, the Timeo Clipper, and the Timeo declipper. And so if you've ever heard about these high-end boxes that have declipping on the front end to clean up mastering errors and distortion, that algorithm is actually in our box at $39.99. So it's normally something you don't see until you're spending $10, $12, $14,000. And so it's really a powerful device. I'm really excited because I think the broadcast customer who only has $5,000 to spend on processing for the longest time has felt like the redheaded stepchild. My budget's small, and I talk to the processing companies, and they really want me to get the good one, the expensive one, but I can't afford it. So they make something cheap for me, and I guess it's going to have to be good enough because my budget isn't that big. That's the guy I feel for. I want to help him out. I want him to get something that he could only dream about.
Well, and let's be
and I want it to
honest
fit
here
in his budget.
There's a lot of them out there.
Well, there are a lot of them out there.
It's a great big marketplace for people, and that's not to demean them at all. It's just, hey, they're in a small market. There's not a big revenue base, but hey, more that they still, I don't care where you're at. If you're in a town of 3 or in a town of 3 million, you want to sound like you're big time.
You really do.
There you go with the Stereo Toolbox.
So a few things, and I could probably just go on and on, but I'll just try to pick out some high points that are interesting. It does FM and HD1 at the same time with built-in diversity delay. So that alone is something you never find on a low cost processor. You pretty much have to decide, do I want this to be an FM box or an AM box or an HD box? And if you wanted to do FM and HD, you're into two boxes. So in our case, FM and HD in the same box with a diversity delay, so you can align the analog and the digital signals. And if you're not using HD1, you could use that second output for streaming, for example. Any digital signal it would be perfect for. And so that's it's got an HTML5 browser, no Flash, no Java. You point a browser at it, and you get these gorgeous web pages with all the controls, and you can make adjustments to your heart's content. You have a whole bunch of really great presets to choose from. If you're not an adjustment kind of guy, you just pick the preset that sounds the best, and you just walk away. Or if you are an adjustments kind of guy, this is a fun project. You find a preset that's close and say, okay, I want this, but I want it to sound a little bit different, and then you get in there and modify it and save it as your new preset. So it's a pretty amazing product. I fired one up just the other day. We're just starting to ship them now. I fired one up just the other day and had it blasting in the back of the factory, and I was just amazed at how good it sounded. To me, it sounded an awful lot like my favorite $12,000 processor that shall remain nameless. So,
Well, this is what it's all about, though, is that bringing something to the marketplace that more companies can afford, but they can still get that, let's say, big time sound. And that's what you're able to do with this. I have one question. It's maybe kind of engineering wise, and I certainly wouldn't understand the answer being a non engineer, but are there advantages to being able to do stereo tool in a box versus connected to a computer?
it's actually a really good question. Uh, until now, basically we're using something like a Raspberry Pi ARM-based computer as the brain in this box. And until recently, those just weren't powerful enough to give you the equivalent performance that you could get from a PC, and that's changed. And so I think that's one of the developments in the industry that's made it possible for us to make this great product at a low price. Is that the equivalent of a Raspberry Pi 5 these days is just an amazingly powerful compute engine, and so we're able to approach what you previously would have needed, server class hardware to do. And so it is a good question, John. The answer to your question, I think, is at this point, it's probably very similar in performance, but there may be still some things that you can do in the PC that you can't do on the box. So, but I'm not quite sure what they are. I'd have to ask. I'd have to ask Timio about that.
You'll have to let us know in the next edition of
Okay.
BSW Tech Dive.
All right.
Also, when you're working with this, is I mean, when you came out with the price point here, I was thinking, okay, this does really go. What do I do if I got two stations? Well, now you've got two stations. You could do one of the more expensive properties, or you can do two stereo toolboxes, and you got two really great sounding stations for the same amount of money.
Yeah. I was talking to a customer. I think it actually might have been one of your customers about a week ago, and he was looking at a $15,000 processor because he needed three outputs. And so he called me and he said, I need three outputs. And I think I read that you have two. And I said, yes, we have two. We have the analog output and the digital output. And he said, boy, that's a shame. That's a deal breaker. I need three outputs. I need analog, digital, and streaming. And I said, buy two. And he said, well, that doesn't make any sense. I'd be wasting all kinds of money. I can just get everything in the same box if I buy it from your competitor. And I said, yes, but that one box is twice the price of two of these. And I think he might have called you and placed an order shortly after that. So
Yep.
it's a different way of thinking about things.
How about demos?
It's a good question. One of the ways we keep our prices down is we don't do demos.
Hmm.
We've
Okay.
replaced that with the industry's only 45-day unconditional money back guarantee. And here's how it works. A guy calls you, says, I'm interested in the Stereo Toolbox, but I'm not sure it's going to be for me. he buys it. He orders it from you. Now, he's probably a good client of yours, and he's probably got credit terms, so he doesn't actually have to give you any money. He just has to place an order. And if after 3 weeks or 4 weeks of playing with it, he doesn't love it, he just calls you and you tell him to send it back. And once we get it, we reverse the entire transaction, and he goes on his way. So you might say, well, that's an awful lot like a demo. And you're right. It is an awful lot like a demo, except for one important difference. If he wants the money back, he sends the box.
Yeah.
It's not us going and begging and trying to chase down demo units and track them and keep them up to date and everything else. And so most customers like this because they end up getting a new box instead of some beat up demo thing.
Sure.
So they get the thing that they would buy if they decide to keep it. And the secret here is, why does this work? Because very few people send our stuff back. They like it.
And the simple way to do that is you call 800-426-8434 or log on to bswusa.com. We'll arrange for the demo through Angry Audio, get it sent off to you as a purchase with that 45-day money-back guarantee. So great way to go because it's simple, easy, and generally speaking, here's something else I've really come to appreciate about Angry Audio. Most every time I call you and see if something's in stock, the answer is yes.
Well, we do, like I said before, we try to aim at the more budget sensitive end of the marketplace. And one thing about people that don't have a lot of money, they also don't have a lot of time. And so they're not planning their studio projects for the next 3 years. They encountered a situation, they need something, they need it now. So we're trying to serve the smaller broadcaster the best we can, and this is how we do it.
And you help us a lot by doing so. Thank you very much, Mike, for this
Thank you.
visit today on the show. Michael Catfish Dosch from Angry Audio, and I'm John Lynch, Director of Business Development at BSW. Thank you for joining us on this edition of BSW Tech Dive.